10 Tips to Talk English Without a Single Pause. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that many of you have asked about, a challenge almost every English learner faces at some point: how to talk English smoothly, confidently, and most importantly, without those awkward, confidence-shattering pauses. We all know the feeling, right? You're mid-sentence, the perfect word is just out of reach, and suddenly, silence. Your mind goes blank, and the conversation grinds to a halt. It's frustrating, it makes you feel self-conscious, and it can really hinder your progress. But what if I told you that you can train yourself to speak English more fluently, to bridge those gaps, and to keep the conversation flowing naturally? Well, you absolutely can. And in today's video, I'm going to share 10 powerful, actionable tips that will help you do just that. These aren't quick fixes. They're strategies that, with consistent practice, will transform your spoken English. So, grab a notebook, get comfortable, and let's get started on your journey to speaking English without a single pause. Tip 1. Practice regularly. Now, we're diving into our first essential tip for speaking English fluently and confidently, without those awkward pauses. And that tip is simple but powerful: practice regularly, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. And you might be thinking, well, that's obvious, isn't it? But the truth is, consistency is often underestimated. It's not about huge, marathon study sessions once a week. It's about building a habit. Think of it like this: if you want to get physically fit, you don't go to the gym for 5 hours once a month, right? You go for shorter, more frequent workouts. The same applies to language learning. Just 5, 10, or 15 minutes of dedicated English practice every single day can make an incredible difference. Why? Because it keeps English fresh in your mind. It reinforces what you've learned. It helps you build muscle memory for your tongue and your brain. So, what does this regular practice actually look like? It doesn't have to be formal. It could be as simple as narrating your day to yourself in English while you're getting ready in the morning. Describe your breakfast, what you're wearing, what you plan to do. Or maybe while you're commuting, instead of listening to music, try to think about your surroundings and label everything you see in English. Oh, there's a red car. The sky is cloudy today. I see a tall building. You could also try reading a short article or a news headline aloud. The key here is aloud. When you speak, you're engaging different parts of your brain and mouth that simply reading silently doesn't. Another great way to incorporate short, regular practice is by using language learning apps for a few minutes during a coffee break, or even just having a quick, imaginary conversation with yourself. Respond to questions you might be asked, or describe a recent event. The goal isn't perfection in these short bursts. The goal is exposure, consistency, and making English a natural, integrated part of your daily routine. So, start small, stay consistent, and you'll be amazed at how quickly your fluency improves. That's it for tip 1. Tip 2. Focus on common phrases and sentence structures. Our second powerful tip builds on the first and is all about efficiency: focus on common phrases and sentence structures. Now, you might have a huge vocabulary list you're trying to memorize, and that's great for expanding your word knowledge. But when it comes to speaking fluently, especially without hesitation, knowing individual words isn't always enough. What really helps is having ready-made chunks of language at your fingertips. Think about how native speakers talk. We don't construct every single sentence from scratch, word by word, in our heads. We often use common phrases, idiomatic expressions, and predictable sentence patterns. These are like building blocks that we can quickly grab and assemble. For example, Instead of trying to figure out how to say, "How are you doing today?" by linking individual words, you learn it as one unit, "How are you doing today?" And then you learn its common responses, "I'm good, thanks," or "I'm doing well." These are prepackaged. So, how do you put this into practice? First, identify common conversational phrases. Think about everyday interactions. Greetings, good morning, how's it going? Nice to meet you. Asking for information, could you tell me? Where is the? What time is it? Expressing opinions, I think that, in my opinion, it seems to me. Agreeing/disagreeing, that's a good point, I totally agree, I'm not sure about that. Making requests, could you please? Would you mind? Second, pay attention to common sentence structures. For instance, the simple subject-verb-object structure is incredibly common, I eat breakfast. She works hard. Practice forming sentences using these basic patterns until they become second nature. You can also find lists of common English phrases online or in textbooks. The key is not just to read them, but to practice saying them aloud repeatedly. Integrate them into your daily self-talk. If you're looking at your phone, think, "I am holding my phone." If you're about to drink water, say, "I am going to drink some water." By focusing on these prefabricated linguistic units, you reduce the cognitive load of having to construct every utterance word by word. It's like having a set of frequently used tools in your toolbox, you don't have to invent them every time you need them. This dramatically reduces pauses because your brain isn't scrambling for individual words, it's accessing an entire, ready-to-use phrase. So, start building your repertoire of common phrases and mastering those essential sentence structures. It's a game-changer for fluency. Tip 3. Listen to native speakers and imitate their rhythm. Alright, let's move on to our third crucial tip for speaking English without those pauses. This one is all about absorbing the natural flow of the language. Listen to native speakers and try to imitate their rhythm. You've probably noticed that when native English speakers talk, there's a certain musicality to their speech. It's not just the individual words. It's the way words are linked together, which syllables are stressed, and where the natural pauses occur. This is called intonation and rhythm. If you only focus on grammar and vocabulary, you might end up sounding a bit robotic, even if your sentences are technically correct. Think about how you speak your native language. There's a natural ebb and flow, a rise and fall in your voice. English has its own unique patterns. Words blend together, some sounds disappear, and others become more prominent. For example, in "What are you doing?" a native speaker might say something closer to "What ya doin'?" The individual words aren't pronounced separately and distinctly. So, how do you capture this? Immerse yourself. Watch English movies and TV shows without subtitles, or with English subtitles. First, pay close attention to how the actors speak. Notice which words they emphasize, where they pause, and how their voice goes up or down. Don't just follow the plot, really tune into the sound. Listen to English podcasts and audiobooks. This is fantastic for ear training. Choose topics you're interested in so you stay engaged. Try to shadow the speaker, that means repeating what they say almost simultaneously, trying to match their speed and intonation. It might feel a bit silly at first, but it's incredibly effective. Find English songs you like and sing along. Music is a powerful way to internalize rhythm and stress patterns. Sing with enthusiasm, trying to match the singer's pronunciation and flow. The goal here isn't to perfectly replicate every sound, but to get a feel for the natural cadence. When you start to internalize this rhythm, your brain will naturally start to predict how a sentence should sound, reducing the need for those awkward silences while you search for the next word. It helps your speech feel more connected and fluid. Tip 4. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, they're part of learning. Alright, it's time for our fourth tip, and this one is arguably the most important for overcoming hesitation. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, they're part of learning. This might sound counterintuitive. We're talking about speaking without pauses, and mistakes can often cause pauses. But here's the truth. The fear of making a mistake is often a far greater barrier to fluency than the mistakes themselves. Many learners stay silent, or speak very slowly, trying to perfectly form every sentence in their head before it comes out. This hesitation is exactly what we're trying to eliminate. Let's be clear, everyone makes mistakes, from beginners to advanced learners, and even native speakers occasionally stumble or mispronounce words. It's a natural part of communication. When you're learning a new language, mistakes are not failures, they are actually feedback. Every time you make an error, it's an opportunity to learn what you need to work on. Think about a child learning to walk. They fall down countless times, but they don't give up because they're afraid of falling. They get back up, they try again, and eventually, they walk confidently. Language learning is no different. So, how do we embrace this? Shift your mindset. Instead of viewing a mistake as something embarrassing or a sign of failure, see it as a stepping stone. Say to yourself, okay, I said goat instead of went. Now I know to focus on irregular past tense verbs. Prioritize communication over perfection. Your main goal should be to convey your message. Most native speakers are incredibly understanding and appreciative of your effort. They care more about understanding what you're trying to say than whether every single verb conjugation is perfect. Get comfortable with imperfection. The more you speak, even with errors, the more comfortable you'll become. The discomfort you feel when making a mistake will lessen over time. Don't overcorrect yourself in the moment. If you're mid-sentence and realize you've made a mistake, often it's better to just keep going. Constantly stopping and restarting yourself will lead to more pauses and can break your flow. You can always correct yourself after you've finished your thought, or make a mental note to review that specific grammar point later. The path to speaking English without pauses is paved with practice, and that practice will involve mistakes. By accepting this, by not letting the fear of error silence you, you'll open yourself up to more opportunities to speak, to learn, and to ultimately achieve that fluent, confident flow. Remember, a spoken mistake is infinitely more valuable for learning than an unsaid, perfectly correct sentence. Embrace them. Tip 5. Speak slowly and clearly to give yourself time to think. Alright, we're halfway through our tips for speaking English without those pauses, and our fifth piece of advice is often overlooked in the rush to sound fast. Speak slowly and clearly to give yourself time to think. This might seem counterintuitive when the goal is to speak without pauses. You might think, shouldn't I be speaking faster to avoid hesitations? But the truth is, trying to speak too quickly when you're not fully comfortable often leads to more stumbles, more ums, and more awkward silences. It's like trying to run before you can walk steadily. When you speak at a moderate, deliberate pace, you're giving your brain precious seconds to recall vocabulary. Instead of frantically searching for a word, a slightly slower pace allows your mind to access the right terms. Formulate sentences. You have time to construct grammatically correct structures without feeling rushed. Plan your next thought. This is crucial for maintaining flow. You can mentally prepare what you want to say next, rather than just finishing one sentence and then freezing. Articulate clearly. Speaking slowly naturally encourages clearer pronunciation, which makes you easier to understand and boosts your confidence. Think of a confident speaker. They don't usually rush through their words. They take their time, enunciate, and deliver their message with precision. This measured pace conveys confidence, not hesitation. So, how do you practice this? Consciously reduce your speaking speed. If you notice yourself speeding up, take a deliberate breath and slow down. Imagine you're explaining something to someone who needs to understand every word. Focus on complete thoughts. Instead of rushing to cram as many words as possible into one breath, focus on expressing one complete idea at a time. Practice pausing strategically and silently. Instead of filling a gap with or try taking a tiny, silent breath or a micropause. This is a natural part of speech, even for native speakers, and it sounds much more natural than a filler word. Read aloud at a deliberate pace. When you're practicing reading, don't rush. Pronounce every word clearly. This trains your mouth and brain to work together at a sustainable speed. Record yourself and listen back. This is an invaluable tool. You'll be able to hear if you're rushing, where your pauses are, and if your pronunciation is clear. Adjust your speed accordingly. Remember, the aim isn't to be fast, it's to be fluid and coherent. A slow, clear, and steady stream of speech is far more effective and less prone to pauses than a hurried, choppy one. Give yourself the gift of time while you speak, and you'll find your words flowing much more smoothly. Tip 6. Use filler words like or like less often, and replace them with short pauses if needed. Alright, let's tackle a common habit that can really disrupt your flow. Our 6th tip is to use filler words like or like less often, and replace them with short, silent pauses if needed. We've all heard them, and we've all probably used them, like, so, basically. These are what we call filler words. Native speakers use them too, of course, but when they become overly frequent, especially for language learners, they can highlight hesitation and break the rhythm of your speech. They signal to the listener that you're searching for words, which is exactly what we're trying to minimize. The problem isn't the filler word itself, but what it represents, a verbal placeholder while your brain is still processing. Our goal is to reduce the need for that placeholder. So, how do we break this habit? Become aware of your fillers. The first step is simply noticing when you use them. You might be surprised how often they creep into your speech. Recording yourself speaking is incredibly helpful here. Listen back specifically for and like. Once you identify them, you're on your way to correcting the habit. Embrace the silent pause. This is the core of this tip. Instead of saying just take a short, silent breath. A brief, quiet pause is perfectly natural in conversation. It gives your brain the exact same amount of time to think, but it sounds much more confident and natural to the listener. Compare I went to the store, to buy some milk with I went to the store, to buy some milk. The second version sounds much more intentional and fluid. Slow down. Revisiting tip 5. This tip directly supports tip 5. If you speak at a more deliberate pace, you'll naturally give your brain more processing time, reducing the impulse to use fillers in the first place. You won't feel as rushed to fill every second with sound. Practice intentional silence. In your practice sessions, whether you're talking to yourself or with a partner, deliberately try to replace every with a moment of silence. It will feel awkward at first, like you're leaving too much space, but you'll quickly realize how much smoother your speech becomes. Have common phrases ready. Revisiting tip 2. The more comfortable you are with ready-made phrases and sentence structures, the less you'll need to search for individual words, and consequently, the less you'll rely on fillers. Breaking the filler word habit takes conscious effort, but it pays off immensely in making your English sound more confident, articulate, and pause-free. Replace those verbal crutches with confident, silent breaths, and you'll notice a significant improvement in your fluency. Tip 7. Think in English rather than translating from your native language. Alright, let's dive into our 7th powerful tip, and this one is about a fundamental shift in your internal process. Think in English rather than translating from your native language. This is a common hurdle for many language learners, and it's a major cause of pauses. When you're speaking, if your brain's first step is to formulate a thought in your native language, then translate each word or phrase into English, and then speak it, that multi-step process adds significant delays. It's like having to interpret a conversation for yourself before you can even respond. This mental back and forth drains energy and creates those awkward silences while your brain juggles two languages. The goal is to cut out that middle step. We want to go directly from thought to spoken English. So, how do you train your brain to think in English? Start small and simple. You don't need to write an essay in your head. Begin with everyday objects and actions. When you see a chair, think chair, not the word for chair in your native language. When you're brushing your teeth, think I am brushing my teeth. Narrate your day to yourself. This is an excellent exercise. As you go about your routine, internally describe what you're doing, seeing, and thinking, all in English. For example, the coffee is hot. I need to send that email. It's raining outside. This builds an internal English monologue. Label everything around you. Look at objects in your house, at work, or on the street, and mentally, or even quietly aloud, say their English names. If you don't know a word, make a mental note to look it up later. Formulate simple questions and answers. Ask yourself questions and answer them in English. What should I have for lunch? I think I'll have a sandwich. What do I need to do today? I need to go to the bank. React in English. If something surprising happens, instead of reacting in your native language, try to think oh, really, or wow. Use English for your internal thoughts and feelings. If you're feeling happy, think I'm happy. If you're annoyed, think this is annoying. This process takes consistent effort, but it's incredibly rewarding. The more you practice thinking directly in English, the faster your brain will become at forming English thoughts, and the more naturally your English will flow out when you speak. You'll bypass that translation bottleneck, leading to significantly fewer pauses and a much more fluent delivery. It's about building direct pathways in your brain from concept to English words. Tip 8. Expand your vocabulary through reading and listening. Alright, let's move on to our 8th tip for conquering those pauses. Expand your vocabulary through reading and listening. While our earlier tips focused on how you use the English you already know, this one is about increasing the sheer volume of words and phrases at your disposal. Think of your vocabulary as your toolbox. The more tools you have, the less likely you are to get stuck because you're missing the right instrument for the job. When you don't have the specific word you need, you hesitate, you search, and that's where the pauses creep in. The best way to build a rich, active vocabulary isn't just memorizing lists. It's by encountering words in context, which is where reading and listening come in. Here's why and how. Reading. When you read, you see words in full sentences, paragraphs, and stories. This helps you understand their nuances, how they're used with other words, collocations, and in what situations they're appropriate. Choose materials you enjoy, whether it's fiction, news articles, blogs, or even social media posts. Pick something that genuinely interests you. This makes the process enjoyable and sustainable. Don't stop for every unknown word. If you stop to look up every single word, you'll lose the flow and get frustrated. Try to guess the meaning from the context first. Highlight or note down words that seem important or appear frequently, and look them up after you've finished a section or chapter. Read widely, don't limit yourself to one type of material. Different genres expose you to different vocabularies. Listening exposes you not only to new words but also to their correct pronunciation, stress, and how they fit into the natural rhythm of spoken English. Revisiting tip 3. Podcasts, audiobooks, and documentaries. Again, choose topics that grab your attention. This could be anything from true crime to cooking shows, science discussions, or comedy. Active listening. Don't just let the words wash over you. Try to actively pick out new words or phrases. If you hear a phrase repeated, try to understand its meaning from the conversation. Use transcripts if available. Many podcasts and YouTube videos offer transcripts. This allows you to listen, read along, and then review new vocabulary. When you consistently expose yourself to new words and phrases through reading and listening, they gradually move from your passive vocabulary, words you understand when you hear or read them, to your active vocabulary, words you can confidently use when speaking. This reduces the mental effort required to recall words, making your speech smoother and significantly cutting down on those dreaded pauses. So, make reading and listening a daily habit. Tip 9. Record yourself speaking and identify areas for improvement. Let's move on to our 9th tip, and this one is about becoming your own best coach. Record yourself speaking and identify areas for improvement. This might sound a bit uncomfortable, and many people initially resist it, but it is one of the single most effective ways to truly understand your own speaking habits and pinpoint exactly where those pauses are coming from. When you're speaking in real time, you're focused on the conversation, on getting your message across. You're often not fully aware of your hesitations, your filler words, or specific pronunciation issues. But a recording doesn't lie. Think of professional athletes or musicians. They constantly review their performance to fine-tune their technique. Why should language learning be any different? So, how do you put this into practice? Use your phone or computer. Most smartphones have a voice recorder app, and there are many free recording tools online or built into computers. It's incredibly easy to do. Choose a task, don't just hit record and ramble. Give yourself a specific speaking task. You could describe your day. Talk about a recent event or movie you watched. Explain a simple process. Respond to common interview questions. Simply answer one of the Think in English prompts from Tip 7. Listen critically, but kindly, play back your recording. The first time might feel awkward, but try to listen objectively. Listen for pauses. Where do you hesitate? Are they long silences, or are they filled with or like? Mark these moments. Identify specific word searches. Can you hear yourself struggling to find a particular word? Notice sentence structure issues. Do your sentences sometimes sound awkward or incomplete? Check your rhythm and intonation. Does your speech flow naturally? Tip 3. Are you speaking too fast or too slow? Tip 5. Pinpoint pronunciation challenges. Are there specific words or sounds you consistently mispronounce? Focus on one or two areas at a time. Don't try to fix everything at once. If you notice you use a lot, make that your focus for the next few days. If you struggle with irregular verbs, make a note to review them. Re-record and compare. After you've worked on a specific area, record yourself again doing a similar task. You'll be able to hear your progress, which is incredibly motivating. This self-assessment loop is incredibly powerful. By consciously identifying your specific pause triggers and other areas that need work, you can then target your practice much more effectively. It takes courage to listen to yourself, but it's an indispensable step on the path to fluent, pause-free English. Tip 10. Engage in conversations with English speakers whenever possible. Alright, we've reached our 10th and final tip for speaking English without a single pause, and it's the culmination of everything we've discussed. Engage in conversations with English speakers whenever possible. All the practice, listening, thinking in English, and self-correction are vital, but nothing truly replaces the dynamic, unpredictable nature of real-time conversation. This is where your skills are truly put to the test, and where you'll make the fastest progress in eliminating pauses. Why is this so crucial? Real-time pressure. Unlike internal monologues or prepared speeches, conversations demand spontaneous responses. This pressure forces your brain to access information quickly, bypassing the translation process and building stronger neural pathways for direct English communication. Immediate feedback. In a conversation, if you hesitate too long, or your meaning isn't clear, the other person's reaction provides immediate, natural feedback. This helps you self-correct in the moment or learn what you need to clarify. Exposure to natural speech. You'll hear how native speakers naturally use fillers, or don't, their pacing, their intonation, and common expressions, all in a live context. This reinforces all the listening you've been doing. Building confidence. Every successful interaction, even a short one, builds your confidence. As you realize you can communicate, the fear of making mistakes diminishes, which directly tackles one of the biggest causes of pauses. Tip 4. Learning to navigate pauses. You'll learn how native speakers handle their own natural pauses, maybe with a brief or a simple "let me see," which are far more natural than long silences or repeated ums. So, how do you find these opportunities? Language exchange partners. Look for online language exchange platforms where you can find native English speakers who want to learn your language. It's a win-win. Online tutors partners. If your budget allows, even a short 15 to 30-minute session with an online tutor a few times a week can be incredibly effective. Their job is to guide you and keep you talking. English-speaking meetup groups. Check local community centers, libraries, or online groups, like meetup.com, for English conversation clubs in your city. Talk to tourists. If you live in a city with many English-speaking tourists or expats, seize any opportunity for a brief chat, asking for directions, ordering food, or striking up a light conversation. Practice with brave friends. If you have friends or colleagues who are also learning English, agree to speak only English with each other for certain periods. Remember, the goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be active. The more you push yourself to speak in real time, the more comfortable and spontaneous you'll become.